Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Windbridge Afterlife Science Podcast. Today, we have a fascinating topic to dive into, the Vista Project, a research program that uses controlled remote viewing to gather information about the afterlife. I'm Anna, and joining me to break this all down is my co-host and our in-house Vista Project expert, Aaliyah.
Hi, Anna. Hello, everyone.
Before we jump in, I need to remind everyone that this podcast is for educational purposes only. Be sure to check with a licensed healthcare provider when considering treatment options. Okay, so to start, what exactly is the Vista Project?
The Vista Project is a unique research initiative at the Windbridge Research Center that applies controlled remote viewing, or CRV, to afterlife research. The idea is to see if we can gather reliable, objective information about what happens after we die. It's about using a structured scientific approach to explore a very abstract concept, life after death.
Remote viewing sounds like something from a sci-fi movie. How does it work in the context of afterlife research?
Remote viewing is a method that has been around since the 1960s and has been studied extensively. It involves participants, called remote viewers, who use their minds to describe objects, places, or events they can't physically see. For the Vista Project, we use CRV under tightly controlled conditions, like randomization and blinding, to ensure the results are as objective as possible.
Interesting. How does this method help answer questions about the afterlife?
One of the key reasons we chose CRV is because it's a well-established protocol. It allows us to gather detailed information about targets that are non-material, like the afterlife, without relying on traditional methods like mediumship or religious texts. These traditional sources can be informative, but they have their limitations. CRV gives us another tool to work with, especially when paired with rigorous scientific controls.
What kind of experiments have been done so far with the Vista Project?
In phase 1 of the Vista Project, we ran an exploratory study. We asked remote viewers to describe 3 different types of targets: a discarnate person, information about the afterlife itself, and a physical target as a control. The targets were blinded and assigned random ID numbers to avoid bias. Each remote viewer provided descriptions for all 3 types of targets.
Wow, what did they come up with?
One of the exciting results involved a physical target, specifically the project lead, Mark Bacuzzi, sitting in his office in front of his computer. A remote viewer described a black box object with laminated, shiny metal surfaces and mechanical components inside, which closely matches Mark's desktop computer. It was quite an accurate description, showing how CRV can work in a controlled environment. As for the afterlife, one viewer described it as a vast, remote, exotic environment with a feeling of benevolence and synchronization. That's pretty intriguing, especially when it comes to exploring what the afterlife might be like.
That's fascinating. What about descriptions of specific discarnates or people who have passed on?
Another session focused on a specific female discarnate, and the remote viewer described perceiving a cloud-like energy with the face of a woman who seemed kind and forgiving. They even noted that it felt like the woman could see them, which was unusual for the viewer. These descriptions are certainly thought-provoking, even if they raise more questions than answers.
Now let's tackle some of the most common questions people have about the afterlife, like, what is the afterlife like? Will I reunite with loved ones, including our animal friends? Is there a bad place or a version of hell? And can we still interact with the living after we die? These are questions the Windbridge team gets asked all the time. Does the project give us any new insights?
These are all deeply meaningful questions, and while no one can provide a definitive answer at the moment, we gather insights from various sources, including mediumship, near-death experiences, and now the Vista Project's use of controlled remote viewing. These descriptions generally portray the afterlife as peaceful, interconnected, and non-judgmental, suggesting possibilities of reunion with loved ones and continued awareness. However, much remains to be explored, and the Vista Project is just beginning to scratch the surface of these complex topics.
So, what's the takeaway from this first phase of the project?
The takeaway is that controlled remote viewing seems to be a useful tool for collecting information about the afterlife. Of course, this is just the first step. The results were promising, but we need more data and further analysis before we can draw any solid conclusions. The ultimate goal of the project is to help reduce fear and anxiety about death by providing people with supportive evidence about the continuation of consciousness after physical death.
What's next for the Vista Project?
The research team is currently revising protocols based on what we learned in phase 1. Next up is phase two, where we'll expand the experiments and hopefully gather even more detailed information. Once phase two is complete, the plan is to present the findings at a conference and publish them in a peer reviewed journal.
It sounds like there's still a lot more to discover.
Absolutely. We have more questions than answers right now, but that's part of the excitement of scientific discovery. If we can ease the fear and anxiety surrounding death, it may make it easier for people to live with greater peace of mind.
Thanks so much for sharing this with us today. That's it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share the podcast. And don't forget to visit winbridge.org to join our email list and support our work. For more information about this episode, check out afterlifescience.org for show notes, discussion questions, and a place to submit your own questions. See you next time.